sun has gone down and the moon has come up, and long ago somebody left with the cup, but he's driving and striving and hugging the turns and thinking of someone for whom he still burns. He's going the distance. He's going for speed. She's all alone in her time of need, because he's racing and pacing and plodding the course. He's fighting and biting and riding on his horse. He's going the distance. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, coming into a brand new horizon of endless options where we're going to shake this place down and we're going to rebuild it in our own image. What do you say?
Okay. Sure. I'm with you.
Maybe I'm getting illusions of grandeur, but
I know that song.
You should.
I don't know who sings it, but I know the song. Don't tell me.
Okay.
Give me a hint.
Give you a hint?
Yeah, give me a hint at who sings it. Who's Paul McCartney in the band or something?
No,
give me a hint.
Here's a hint. Chocolate. Lemon. Marble. Birthday.
Cake.
Yes. There
I'm
we
going to
go.
count that as a right answer.
We should be on like the $10,000 pyramid, although that's not a lot of money anymore.
Well, no, you know what we should be?
Yeah.
Is it's kind of like the Twins announcers when they have a trivia question. They just say 100 different answers, and if one of them's right, they give themselves credit.
Well,
so
there we go.
I totally did not know where you were going at first, but I got the cake part.
Yes.
Chocolate, I didn't quite get it, but or as Ray Romano calls it, chocolate.
Yeah.
Chocolate.
All right. Well, obviously, we're talking about driving. We're talking about roads today. We'll get into that. We're here to feed our own delusions of grandeur, I guess, and we believe that we do some good here week by week. So we're going to keep on with that. Election is in the past, in our rear view, and it's a new day, Andrew.
Well, as there's an old saying, the next election starts the day after the previous election is over.
Or if you're a conservative, it starts in June of the election year.
Pretty much. I mean, we do make a pitch here, folks. If you're thinking about anything, you don't wait a year and a half to make that decision. You really need to make it soon.
Yeah, I mean, really. I mean, if you needed to move out of your house and get into a new house within, say you got a year to figure it out. Do you wait until 3 months before? No, because it's going to take 3 months for you to do the whole closing procedure. You're not going to have any time to do the research, figure out whether you like the area, whether you like the houses in the area, the project, the valuations of properties, crime, all that kind of stuff. You just don't do it. You take your time, and if you know that you have a while, you do your research, and you become educated at the process of buying a house rather than just jumping into it at the last moment. Yeah.
Well, we'll harp on that like we always do. I mean, and here's the thing. Okay. We talked last week about election results and how certain areas where a lot of things changed, in certain areas some things didn't. In the areas where things changed, and I think I'm talking about CD2, CD3.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned, I mean, the state levels, one side won and one side lost. And the side that lost, well, there's another election in 2 years. Mm-hmm. The Senate is up. Also, where are you going to find that bedrock of candidates?
You
don't want to run
stab at the House as well.
You don't want to run, 31st. I mean, there's 201 legislative seats in Minnesota, which is a lot.
Yes, it is.
That's more than California, just to put it in perspective. So you divide that by 8 CDs. Now it doesn't divide like that,
right?
But let's just pretend that it did. You divide it by 8 CDs, and that's 25 races per. Give or take a few per congressional district. Well, that means you've got to have all those candidates.
Yeah.
And you don't start recruiting those. Do you start recruiting those candidates in a year and a half? If you do, you're probably not winning.
No, I mean, unless you're in a place where your party always wins. But
Right.
then you don't get to select the best candidate.
You don't get to vet. You take the next person in line, and that's almost worse.
Oh, yeah.
So, you've got to have that bevy. I mean, it's just the stuff we preach all the time. I don't know when that anybody's going to wake up and see that, but I don't know. I don't know. I hope it's in my lifetime. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I take a look at the results, and I was thinking about this as well, that all of these people, and I think I wrote this when I put out the last podcast, I think I actually put it in writing, that, Jason Lewis lost down in 2, and in 3, Eric Paulson lost. Somebody's going to have to step up and run for those races this year. That's going to leave some openings in the current legislature, probably. So where are you pulling the next legislators from?
Right.
It's
going to lead to a vacant seat.
Right. And even if you did have 1 or 2 city council type candidates you could pull into that kind of a role, then who's stepping up into those roles so that and this is why we keep harping on this, whether it's starting with the advisory commissions and working all the way up through, state and federal level races. But all the time, I mean, it's amazing. I still hear, even after this last race, as much as we harp on filling up those advisory commissions, people still kind of questioning that, like, how do you do that, I don't know how to be clear about it, but we need to be, and we need to continue to put that message out there because it's an important one, Andrew.
Right, and I would throw something else out there. Advisory commissions aren't just for people who want to be candidates.
Oh, no.
I think that we harp on that as the place to start. But, if you want to serve and aren't interested in being a candidate yourself, or maybe aren't right now, like you say, that's the elementary. That's like you're in the baseball draft, and you got picked in the 37th round. Okay, You go to the rookie league. Okay, that's what you're doing. And if you look at CD3, and you could make the case for the Democrats, you could make it in CD1 and CD8. I mean, they were vacant with the Tim Walz and Rick Nolan not running.
Right.
They lost both seats. They're going to need to come up with a new person to go there, too. And it might be somebody from the legislature, which, again, just may create a vacant seat or a seat where there's no open seat, I guess we'll call it, not vacant. So they're going to have to probably do that in CD1 and CD8. Colin Peterson, when he retires, they should have somebody lined up and waiting to take his meat. What does he serve? 26 years now or something?
But let's look at that. CD8, Pete Stauber wins, but also in that race, you had a number of people running on the other side of the ticket, and one of those was the mayor of North Branch, Kirsten Kennedy, and she vacated that seat, so that left that seat open for the mayor of North Branch, which then 2 people from the city council in North Branch ran for that position.
Right.
Then that leaves city council vacancies. Where do you pull that from, right?
Yeah.
Some places end up doing special appointments or special elections. We always argue that elections are better because it puts it in the hands of the people, like in places like Ramsey or Big Lake. The mayor of Big Lake,
Champlin, we went through this too.
Exactly. The mayor of Big Lake ended up going to the county commission, and so now there is an open seat for mayor.
There will be, in January.
Right, in January. And so I know firsthand right now, and I've heard that they're trying to debate, well, do we do a special election or do we do an appointment? You're kidding me, right? You're gonna.
Well, keep in mind. I mean, this is where we harp about being home rule charter cities,
right?
Where something like that is specified. Crystal, our home base, spells it out in the charter. There's no debate. There's no talk.
Right.
Here's the process. If it happens within X amount of time, special election has to be held within 180 days or something. I don't recall what's in the. But you remember when Gary Grimes got ill.
Yes.
And stepped down, they appointed someone, but the only reason they did that is because the charter said they could as long as an election happened within so many days.
Right.
They didn't have to make an appointment, but they chose to, and then there was a primary, and then there was an election to fill out which is now Julie Dessler's seat, to fill out the remaining 2 years of his term. But they couldn't just appoint and be done with it.
Right. And cities play games with this all the time, and counties do, and I'd imagine school districts do as well, where they lose somebody moves out of the district, or somebody gets elected to a higher office, and there's a hole there. New Hope, we railed on this, where they kind of worked around the date just so that they didn't have to have a special election, and instead they're able to appoint their own person, so that way that person comes back as an incumbent, has name recognition, and is a lot harder to beat.
Yeah, and actually served longer than 2 years. Which again is something state law has to look into. That, can you have somebody who and I fault the person also who left, clearly manipulated that, clearly knew he was going to move and ran again anyway, which was just a total dickhead move. Sorry. But it was a joke. Eric Lamley, I'm talking about, who's probably the most worthless council person I've ever run into. Never cast a dissenting vote in 10 years, which is pathetic. But we see this a lot being manipulated too, with people running. And I don't necessarily fault them for this, but okay, I'm going to run for a commissioner seat and I'm on the council, but I'm not up this year. So if I lose, I still have my seat, but then if you win, the vacancy is created. So
right.
There's a lot of that. You run when you're out of a position of strength, is what it's called in politics. So, I mean, there's all those kind of things that happen too. So, it's going to happen. It happens in Congress. It happens where people take, I'll take I guess I call him former Attorney General Jeff Sessions now.
Yeah.
Who became Attorney General. He was a sitting senator. Alabama law required a special election, which is why there was one last year, to fill out until 2020, which is when his seat is up.
Right.
So, but again, every state's a little different too. Minnesota law is a little different than that too. You have to have an election right after an appointment, which is what happened with Tina Smith. Mm-hmm. You had to have an election right after that to fill out the last 2 years of Al Franken's term.
Yeah.
That's Minnesota law. It is different state to state. Look at what happened in Arizona with the death of Senator McCain. The governor there appointed John Kyle. Kyle can serve, but only till 2020.
Right.
Then there has to be an election to fill out Senator McCain's last 2 years. That's Arizona law. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you do about a death. They happen, unfortunately.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry Senator McCain's gone.
Well, and we're talking about the Senate here.
True.
It should all be appointed anyways. But
right. repeal that amendment. I agree.
But
you're supposed to represent the states, and we got to do a show on that sometime.
Yeah, as the law stands, I mean, people elect the Senate, so I guess technically appointing is bad. But I would like to see that reversed and have the states send senators to Washington and have the people. That's why it's called the People's House, is because the people elected the House.
Yeah. Well, and again, the original intent, if you go back to the original intent, it was that the House was your direct representation.
Yep.
The Senate represented the states. And the theory behind this, if anybody ever takes Civics 101 again, which I don't think anybody ever has outside of this room, you take nothing can become law without the consent of the people and the states. It was important that both say yes to something. I'm not going to go, Thomas Jefferson or John Calhoun radical nullification, 2 presidents, which is what Calhoun proposed at one time. I mean, I wouldn't take it that far, but ultimately, there's a reason that there's 2 senators from every state. There's a reason that's that way.
Yep.
So, but we've taken away that, and we've seen since good old 1913, the year that we started dying as a country.
Yeah. Thank you, Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah. I mean, the Philadelphia A's won the World Series, about the only good thing that happened in 1913.
Speak for yourself.
Was there another good thing that happened?
I don't know. I'm not an A's fan.
Oh, even in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Ah, jeez. All right, never mind. So, I mean, if you, the point being that you've seen that transfer of power where states are now subservient to the federal government rather than equal shareholders, which is what they're supposed to be. So anyway, I mean, off the subject.
Yes.
But yeah, vacancies are a big deal. Special elections. Some people complain that there's not enough voters and things like that. Well, the answer to that is to not take away everybody else's. It's kind of like, some people get to send their kid to an expensive private school for a great education. Other people can't. You know what the solution is? The solution is not to drag the kid down.
Yeah.
It's to bring everybody else back up. The key to having strong primaries and strong caucus and strong special elections is to get more people out to vote.
Right.
Not take them away.
Well, that's the thing. And, the same people who are for appointing over having a special election, they're the ones who want to keep the odd year elections where 30%, or not even, 30,
if you're concerned about voter turnout, where are you in that?
Yeah. The voter turnout in odd years is terrible.
They're having school referendums in April. Nobody cares if their side wins.
Right. And, they want to appoint people when it suits them, but when it's an opportunity to make things fair and equal across the board, not so.
Yeah, we know the answer.
One other thing before we move on, and this is maybe a different show, and we're going to have to dig into this a little more. School referendums, since you mentioned that, really get under my skin. Robbinsdale, of course, passed the one that we had talked about, where after 4 years after passing 2 10-year referendums, they came back for another one and passed.
Well, now there's spin on that, don't you?
Okay.
That the first one was an extension of the previous one. This one is a new one.
Doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't matter.
It's
but
money. It's an extension. Give me a break. Yeah, we're still paying for it. It's still money coming out of our pocket.
Hey, don't shoot the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger here.
But this is why we need to take a look at this, and I think that Minnesota statute needs to change on this. I mean, you have the power of the school districts and the unions that are able to push forward a positive campaign in favor of these referendums, and that's that you're basically using the taxpayers' money to push for getting more taxpayer money, and that should be illegal. Well, I know technically you have to set up like a Yes 281 campaign, but I'd like to see where all the money for that comes from. And I don't think that they should be able to use not only district money, and that's probably, there's some law around that, I would imagine. I haven't looked into this yet.
There's
but district time, district resources, district property, all of that. Should not be allowed. But yet they flyer at school events. They mail stuff out.
It's the whole sales pitch that goes behind it. I think school funding, generally speaking, needs to be revamped. I think that I'm of two minds on it. I mean, I don't want to go too far on this, but I'm of two minds on it because school districts have had the state and federal governments come in and take away some of their choices. And that's a legitimate gripe that they have.
Absolutely.
Cities and counties can impose whatever the hell they want, and school districts can't. So and there's a cost associated too with a referendum. I mean, especially when it's not in an even year, where they're sharing the costs with everybody. So there are expenses around having a campaign, and you're right, the collusion with the unions who ultimately benefit from this because 80% of the money winds up in their pocket. And again, the union's job is to do their own negotiating. They have a right to exist. We have the wrong people, I think, in Robbinsdale negotiating with them, but that's a different story. Their leaders are doing what they think is best for their union. That's what they were elected to do. Look, my father was a steward in the Teamsters. I know, I see both sides of that from their point of view. But yes, not only do they use district property, they use district equipment. They use have times when they have school board meetings where they can sell this constantly. They have forums where local officials come and get sold on it and get to pledge their name as somebody who supports it, and they're very much pressured to do so. So there's a whole thing with it. But education, they're in some ways they are handcuffed by the feds and especially the state of Minnesota. I mean, the state of Minnesota has made rules around this stuff. At the same time, they've prevented schools from doing some things that they could. So ultimately, it's a failure all the way around. We in Minnesota are great at creating things that everybody hates.
Yeah.
And I've never met a person left, right, center who likes how schools are funded in this state.
Right.
So the whole kit and caboodle, I don't think you can make one law that's going to fix everything. I think the whole system was undertaken in 2001. That's where funding was taken from the locals and brought back to the state, which I think is a serious mistake. Mm-hmm. And that needs to be revised under this equality banner. What it's created is what government always creates, which is equal misery.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've taken the power out of the school. Why do we have a school board? If the state is going to control 85% of this, then we have a school board that, you know.
Yeah, the Board of Education. I mean, it is.
Yeah, the bureaucrats.
Powerful.
I mean, the bureaucrats.
The department. The board went away back in like '99.
Yeah, that was part of the reform that happened. Yeah. So yeah, it's a mess, and that's a show, and that's 10 shows right there. To even just explain, which I can't fully do. And you know, you and I study this for a living.
Yeah.
And I still can't fully understand how schools are funded.
No, I think we'll have to probably bring in like a calculus professor from an Ivy League school.
I tried to do that. They waved a white flag at me. Even they wouldn't do it. So I don't know. I don't know if that'll happen. Speaking of the state screwing things up.
Oh, we could go on.
And the state
days.
of Minnesota government folks could screw up a one-car parade. Okay. Our subject matter today is another thing that's going. I'm going to look, folks. I'm going to forewarn you. If you have anger management problems, if you are going to every time we speak on something, you want to smash your phone or your computer or whatever, you may not want to continue here with what we're.
Get a pillow so you can smash it on something soft.
Bring your push pause. Bring your therapist over. Take your Zoloft, whatever. You may not want to continue with what we're going to discuss because what we're going this may be a subject that I think a lot of people aren't aware of. I mean, Jay, you and I talk a lot about local elections falling under the radar and things like that.
Yeah.
But how about local sales and wheelage and VAT taxes? How about that for an issue? Now, folks, let me put it to you this way. I remember this was not that long. It was a couple months ago. I got my tabs in the mail. I think September is the month of my. I should know. My truck's just right outside, but to renew my tabs, and you'll see when you see the it'll break down what now my truck's more than 10 years old and there's a flat fee now from the state of Minnesota. Okay. Mm-hmm. The state of Minnesota is not the only person taxing your tabs.
Oh, no.
I live in the People's Republic of Hennepin County, and I saw a wheelage tax.
Yes.
A wheelage tax on my tabs. Now, there's a little we'll get into the history here in just a second.
Okay.
But I'm going to just say, when you get your tabs, look at it, break it down. It's kind of like I kind of equate the wheelage tax to the franchise fee, and I'm going to expound on that later.
Okay.
Like you get that electric bill, and way down in the 49th thing you're charged for is that franchise fee every month.
Right.
I think the wheelage tax has a lot of similarities to that.
Yeah, it's kind of stuck in the details down when you look at your tabs.
If you do, how many people break that open and really look at it?
It's
of course,
I owe $51. I guess I'll mail it in.
Right, or I'll go down to the DMV and just get them, or pay them online, or whatever. But I think a lot of people don't. How many people, when they get that electric bill in the mail, sit there? I know I'm anal retentive. I do that, but I think a lot of people don't. So we want to explain, and also local sales taxes. There's counties in Minnesota and a handful of cities, and I don't know how much we'll harp on the cities because the county one is, I think, where people are the most ignorant of where, and I say that with all due respect, of what they're paying in sales tax for every single purchase that is not groceries or clothes or whatever is, not taxed. That and fresh air, I guess, is probably all that's not taxed here in Minnesota. So we're going to get into that a little bit, and I'll tell you what, boy, it's so pertinent because of what the governor-elect is talking about, and what some ideas are being talked about right now, which I don't even want to get into because I don't want to make people any angrier than they're going to be about a gas tax, because I think that the gas tax has led to some of these other taxes, and I'll explain that.
Yeah.
But back in 2008, Jay, you remember this very well. I remember this. In fact, I remember where I was when the big transportation bill with the gas tax increase was passed. Governor Pawlenty vetoed it, and it was passed over his veto by the DFL and a handful of alleged Republicans.
Aren't you glad we put them back in power?
Yeah.
Hey.
In fact, I think, and somebody can look this up or whatever, but I think at the time the DFL had a veto-proof majority in the Minnesota Senate. I could be wrong about that, but I think they were very, very close. If not, they were a vote or two off. I know in the House that they didn't, because there were about 8 or so Republicans who defected here. And I think there was 1 or 2 Democrats that voted no. But basically that bill, what was focused on was the gas tax. And there's a reason behind it. And, of course, Minnesota always gets creative
Right.
Excuse me, in trying to take your money. But you remember back in 2007, 2008, when gas went up to, I was in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin in the spring of 2008 and paid $4.15 a gallon of gas. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the highest I've ever paid. I don't think it got that high quite here in the Twin Cities, but it was damn close.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And one thing about that is I believe, and even me, I will even plead guilty on this, I think it changed some people's behavior. People really went out and after more fuel-efficient vehicles.
Yes.
People maybe went to the lake one less time. They went, they figured out how to make it work in their budgets. I know it was one of them. I know miles to the gallon, even with what I drive, just because I love having a truck, which was not the top thing but I know that miles to the gallon, boy, that's something that almost everybody asks when you buy a car. 25 years ago, nobody cared.
Right.
Okay. Today it matters.
Well, and that's it. I mean, now I drive a pretty fuel-efficient SUV, as far as SUVs go. Not because I'm looking to make an impact on global warming, but because I'm looking to make an impact on my wallet. But I remember not so long ago, I was driving around the 83 Jaguar XJ6. It had 2 gas tanks, one on each side, and probably got about 4 gallons to the mile. So it's... So I have to. There's a gas station. We better pull over and fill up because I'm gonna need to
go to the grocery store. You had to get gas on the way each time and on the way home.
Yeah,
but the reason I mention that is because the gas tax, believe it or not, I think this is why it's targeted by so many politicians, is actually somewhat of a flat source of tax dollars. Mm-hmm. It doesn't continuously rise when people's income levels rise or things like that.
Right. They've got to change the law around it.
Right. So you have to get creative here in Minnesota to get around that and make sure government gets as much money as humanly possible. And in 2008, and because gas was so high, and I think it's one of the reasons that the legislature changed hands 2 years later was this, people were pissed off about this. You'd think the party that did that would learn something. But the little-known parts of that bill were to give counties. Now, forget the 7-county metro and CTIB. I don't want to re-debate that and re-argue that.
We've that
covered
in prior podcasts.
Yeah, you can Google that and go where we talk about CTIB. A transportation sales tax option was given to counties. They could raise it up to 0.5%. Now, at one time, it required voter approval.
Yes.
A 2013 law changed that.
Why would we want voter
we don't
approval?
want voter approval. No, of course not. We want to be able to do it by resolution.
Yeah.
People will find out about it after it happens.
Sherburne County.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So,
Yes.
and magically, it's amazing how many counties, Jay, needed this tax.
I know.
I mean, isn't it incredible how many of them imposed this afterward? I mean, they're all so short of money that they imposed the vehicle sales tax. I don't know if I have an exact count here. I'm looking at the wheelage tax here, but there's a map that has we'll get into the wheelage tax in a sec, that is the local option for transportation. And most counties have passed something, either a 1/4 cent, which is not very many.
It looks like 40 out of our 87 counties have passed one. Yeah.
Looks like more than that to me.
And, that might be more updated, the map you're looking at, than the document that I have in front of me.
Here's what I've got. For the 1/4 cent, I have got Anoka County, Washington County, and Dakota County. Now, that's, of course, with the withdrawal of CTIB.
Right.
Stins County, and the county named after a slaveholder, James Knox Polk County up in the Northwest. The counties that have 0.5 cent. So remember, this is a sales tax. And this is the thing about as opposed to a gas tax. Sales tax hits everyone.
Yep.
Everyone. Every purchase outside of a handful of things, this hits. And you've got red counties, you've got blue counties, you've got purple counties. All from Blue Earth County to Freeborn to Mower to Olmsted, Winona County, Chisago County, Pine County, St. Louis County, Lake County, Cass County, Hubbard, Becker, Ottertail, Douglas, Todd, Clay, Morrison, Wright. I mean, whether it's in a red area or a blue area, they've all imposed this 0.5 cent tax for, quote, transportation. Now, let me explain something here. Remember, they already spend county funds on transportation. They all get county aid through the state. And again, that's one of those programs we don't have time to explain. Maybe we would sometime. But there's a formula that figures out, kind of like municipal street aid, where their county aid is coming. So they're already getting the bonding projects come and pay from the state that pay for some of this stuff. Yep. Now, Jay, you might think, and I'm torn on this a bit, you might think that this is not the worst idea in the world, because would it be easier to have your county collect a tax, your county pay for a road, and hold them directly accountable, not the merry-go-round of money that the state, the feds, everybody throws in. They've got somebody to blame, blah, 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 blah. However, what this really is this is a way to raise, and this is the wheelage tax too, it's a way to raise revenue that does not hit the property tax levy.
Right.
See, ultimately, they can say, we held the line on property taxes.
We raised every other tax.
Raised every other thing on the face of the earth. And how, you're sitting there making purchases. Mm-hmm. You make a $10 purchase and it's another penny. I think that's what that's what these counties are hoping, that people just kind of suck it up and but
no, and that's an interesting dichotomy. It's like I tend to be in favor more of a sales tax than I am, say, an income tax. But it's harder to track a sales tax because it is just kind of coming off the top of every purchase. And you're not really sure how much you've paid in taxes over a longer period of time,
Well, and hey, if they want to get rid of the income tax, it's statewide. Okay, then now we're talking.
Right.
But, you have a tax like this, which is very regressive.
Oh, absolutely.
lower and middle income people are going to be, a gas tax, at least I could rationalize that, okay, if I'm using gas tax to pay for roads, well, then the people driving and using the roads are the ones going to pay the tax.
Well, unless you're a bicyclist.
Well, right. I mean, again, I'm in a perfect world. That was the original conception of a gas tax, was that the people who use the gas, and if you don't drive or use public transit or whatever, you're not paying that tax directly.
Yeah, right.
So that was the whole thing. Now, of course, we know it's become convoluted, and there's constitutional amendments and things around some of that stuff, which we've hit on a few times in previous shows. But ultimately what this is, and this is just kind of a sneaky way for a county to just get more money. I mean, this open-ended, it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to have a half a cent for 10 years to fund these 5 projects. And it's not going to go anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe after 10 years, we'll give you another list, or the tax goes away. Big difference between, okay, we're just going to impose something, it's just going to be there forever and ever.
Right.
And, we can spend it on transportation, which is a very large umbrella nowadays.
It is. And, we look at this and, well, it's the counties being sneaky about being able to raise more revenue. I mean, it's got the full blessing of the state. I mean, they're the ones who wrote the law.
Well, and it's also kind of the state saying, hey, you know what? Go get your own money.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's that too. Which, I mean, I'm not against that. I think
in theory.
Right. I tend to think that your highest level of taxation should be at the local level, should be in your cities, schools, counties. Counties should be a little less than cities. State should be a lot less than counties and cities. And federal government should be a lot less than all of that. But we flipped the whole thing on its head. I mean, it costs more to take care of roads, to keep police and fire and all that. And the basic parts of government, the basic functions of government. I'm not talking about, I'm giving carte blanche to cities and counties to go spend away and rack up bills because you should be charging us more than the federal government. No, I'm saying we are getting charged way too much by the state and federal government. They need to bring their level of spending and taxation way down to below where current spending is at city levels.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about it that I've read is that if you have one of these wheelage taxes, and I'll explain the wheelage tax in a second to anybody who doesn't quite remember what it is or know about it, does not affect your ability to get state aid.
Right.
So you can get state aid and then impose a bunch of taxes on top of it.
Right.
And that has no effect. So it's basically saying, okay, we're going to give you the free money that you think you're entitled to. On top of it, you go out and get more money. And on top of that, you can raise your levy and spend that too.
Right.
And counties are in a unique, and again, I don't want to make excuses like for school districts, but counties are mandated by the state to do certain things. When we've mentioned this before, but assessing is their job, health and human services is their job, public safety, they have a state mandate. The court system, they have a state mandate.
Yep.
There's a couple other things too. But again, how much they spend on that? Okay, you need public safety, and we do. There's no question about it.
Absolutely.
But whether you spend $100 million on it, $200 million on it, $120 million, has to be debated. And what they're doing has to be as well. How many libraries do you need? Especially in today's day and age. How many do you really need a county hospital? I mean, there's the counties want to be in a position that they don't have to say no to something. And when you open up lines of revenue, you simply, okay, we'll take the transportation money out of that, and we'll that leaves us to spend more on health and human services or this or that or whatever. So there's issues there when it comes to that. But, not only did the legislature give counties the power to enact this, not only did they take away an ability to have a referendum on it.
Right.
They also implemented the wheelage tax back in 2013.
Good old state statute 163.051.
Oh, are you going to educate us on the wheelage tax?
I can, or if you
54
want to,
counties have imposed it now.
Yeah, 54 out of 87. That's
so we got a good batting average, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, it's taking just about anything with wheels and then making those things with wheels pay a special fee just to use the road. Cars obviously being hit with a $10 per year for each county that decides to authorize that tax. But also on and after January 1st, 2018, up to $20 per year in any increment of a whole dollar. You can't have like $17.50. It's got to be 17 or 18.
I was going to guess 1462.
There we go. By each county that authorizes the tax, you can go up to $20 on motorcycles, on motorized bicycles, on motorized foot scooters, or for any county that authorized the tax prior to May 24th, 2013. The wheelage tax continues at the rate provided under paragraph B up above. So, you know what's missing from there?
I do.
Yeah. Bicycles.
My idea.
Yeah, the BST.
Bicycle sales.
That's
tax.
right.
Greatest idea ever.
So I want some
You
clarification.
got to have a motor. You got to have a motor. If you have a motor, you get taxed. If you don't have a motor, you don't get taxed.
But motorized foot scooters, you're going to tell me that motorized foot scooters do damage to the roads, that they need to pay to repair the roads, but bicycles do not. I mean, especially when you've got, like, downtown Minneapolis, you've got those pedal pubs where you put about 42 people on a big round bike with a keg in the middle. That's got some weight to it. You're going to tell me that doesn't have some effect on the street? Okay, it's not 42, but you know what I mean. Maybe you've got a tandem bike, a bicycle built for two. Maybe you're doing twice the damage that somebody on a foot scooter is doing.
Or you're bucking,
Yeah. Well, yeah. X Games come to town, you got the BMX bikes jumping all over everything, tearing stuff up. I don't know.
Well, it's typical of the bike community. They want everything for free, and they don't want to put any skin in the game. What else is new there?
Absolutely. Gimme, gimme, gimme. And then the second
they're like endless teenagers.
The second your shadow crosses over into a bike lane, they're crying foul. And taking pictures and sending it in to the authorities, but yet they don't stop at a single stoplight.
That's the whole thing. They're the bikers like the Green Bay Packers. They ain't cheating, they ain't trying. So I mean, it's and I want to just go through here once again, Jay.
Yeah,
the people who have a wheelage tax. Again, we have red counties. Blue counties. We have purple counties. We have orange counties, green counties, whatever you want to call them.
Cool counties.
Yeah.
We got them all.
Very big in the southern half of Minnesota.
Yeah, it is.
Not so big in the northern half.
No. And I don't know.
And it's amazing.
There are very few roads in Lake of the Woods County.
Yeah, well, think if they wanted to start paving them. I mean, we'd never end.
All right.
But you think about this. You can have it for the original law was up to $10. Okay.
Yes.
You know that and you could do it all in whole dollars, right? Well, how many counties that enacted it did it for less than $10?
Is that the way it was originally?
Right, in 2013.
From January 1st, 2014 through December 31st, 2017, $10 per year. It doesn't say up to.
Oh, up to. Okay.
Yeah, it's just $10 per year for the cars, and then up to $20 for that. That's interesting too. I'll hold my tongue. You were going to make a point.
Well, I was just making a point that nobody made it $9, nobody made it $8, but
right.
Maybe they couldn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do have to say this is the one time I sent an email to Mike Opad.
Yeah.
And complimented him. It's the one time he ever returned my email.
Oh.
Just saying, thank you very much, Mr. Richter. I said, thank you for voting against the wheelage tax. He voted against it. And so did Jeff Johnson. I can't remember the third. 4-3 is what it passed in Hennepin County.
Yeah.
So it was a very close, very contentious vote. So I will give, you got to find common ground where you can.
Wasn't Marion Green, I'll tell you that.
No, she was. I'm sure she was cursing out somebody smoking, but Randy Johnson might have still been there. It might have been him, but
all right.
It was 4-3 no. I know Peter McLaughlin voted yes.
Yeah.
I know Jan Callison voted yes. So, I mean, it was the usual suspects. And if you look at these counties, I mean, it's very big in the southern part of the state. There's only a couple counties south that do not have it. The only one I can really see is Blue Earth County, believe it or not, that does not have a wheelage tax. Now, you go up in northern and western Minnesota. In fact, the entire north part of the state, Itasca County has got it. Marshall County, Pennington County, Clay County, Otter Tail County. Itasca County has it. I should point out they do not have a sales tax there. So they don't have a sales tax. They do have a wheelage tax. And then you have some counties like Aiken County that don't have any. And then a lot of the counties, St. Louis County doesn't have a wheelage tax.
Right.
I mean, you'd think that county,
they've
never been a tax that they didn't love.
Exactly.
So Cook County doesn't either. Lake County.
Yeah.
But a lot of them in the northern part of the north central and north don't have one. But
it's funny that Kitson County does not have one, but yet Roseau would like to have complete streets.
Very good point. Yeah.
Just saying. But yeah, I mean, down south, Blue Earth is as far south as they don't have one. Yellow Medicine doesn't have one. Chippewa doesn't have one. Meeker doesn't have one. That's still kind of southern.
South, you're going Yellow Medicine
Southwest,
goes to the South Dakota border,
Granite
Falls area. But now you can make me $20.
Yes, for all the motor foot scooters out in Swift County.
And who has done this? Well, there's about maybe 10 or so.
Yes.
Benton County, Brown County, Carver County, Dodge County, Fillmore County, another named after a president.
Yes.
Nicollet County, Otter Tail County, Ramsey County, which just did it, Rice County, Steele County, George the Animal Steele County, Wabasha County is the other one. Now, some of them have raised it to 15, and you know what that means. That's a $5 cut.
Yes.
That would be Pipestone County and Wantawan County have raised it up to 15. I would expect most of these counties to follow suit and raise it up to 20 within the next year or two. Yeah. Now that the elections are over, I'm sure now. Now they'll start doing
Only the brave souls go out and do it right off the bat like that.
It'll be passed by the people who aren't up for election.
Right.
They'll do it 2 years from now everybody will forget. So if you, whatever county you live in, my friends, take a look here. I mean, here in the Twin City Metro, boy, it's hard to stay. I mean, all of them have a wheelage tax. Most of them have all of them have some sort of half a cent or quarter cent. Like I said, Anoka, Washington, and Dakota counties have a quarter. Hennepin, Carver, Scott, and Ramsey have got half a cent.
I would just like to say, Carver County, we're so conservative.
Well, Scott County, the same thing.
I know. Well, Scott County maybe is a little less so, but Carver County makes a point of it. And here they are, not putting in the quarter cent like Anoka, which is still bad enough, but putting in the full half a cent and the wheelage tax. Yeah,
and how about a county like Wright County? I mean, a very conservative county. They don't have the wheelage tax, but they have half a cent.
Yeah.
Out in Wright County.
Sherburne just put in a half a cent without the consent of the governed.
Yeah.
It's...
Morrison County. I mean, there's a county that is... President Trump got 68% of the vote or something in that county. They got a wheelage tax, and they got the same thing Hennepin County has.
Right.
But again, this is the who's up in Morrison County on those county boards. I mean, who's paying attention to this?
Right. Well, I think they forgot where they came from. They think that they were named after Jim Morrison, and everybody's tripped out up there and passing taxes left and right.
Well, we'll never pass an acid tax, man. Marijuana gets legalized. They won't tax it up there.
No.
In fact, if hemp. We'll call it hemp. That's
Yes.
its technical name. If that gets legalized, do you think that the state is going to give a local sales tax option to hemp sales?
Let's not give them any ideas.
I mean,
But,
hey,
you
it's
legalize things so you can tax it, right?
yeah, but I mean that's the wrong reason to legalize something.
Well, of course, but I mean that's
It's like gambling. I mean, there's a argument to be made that gambling happens. You're never going to stop it. You can go to a casino. The state runs a lottery. I mean, why is it that you go to a gas station? There's you can buy a lottery ticket, but there's some moral objection to a slot machine.
yeah.
I mean, I don't
that's
understand.
better.
I don't understand it. But here's the thing:
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to legalize gambling as a budget solution.
Right.
I wanted to do it under freedom, under people's negative rights, under people's freedom to do what they want with their money. But I don't think that the state going in and taking it or running it is the ultimate way to do that.
No.
So I mean, just me going off on a tangent there. But I mean, you think about these wheelage taxes. How bad? I mean, think of a place like Hennepin County that has a $2.4 billion with a B dollar budget. How bad do you have to be at spending the taxpayers' dollars and allocating money that a $10 wheelage tax is life or death for you?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. With as many people as live in Hennepin County, that's a lot of
There's
money.
1.2 million,
Yeah.
not 1.2 million cars, 1.2 million citizens.
Right.
But you take the businesses on top of that, Jay, and all that kind of thing. I mean, who knows? It could be 1 million cars for all I know.
Yeah.
You figure your average, mom and dad and kids have at least 2 cars. I mean, they may not drive them all the time.
I would assume.
But you got to get tabs every year,
Yeah.
whether you.
Businesses that have their own vehicles they have to pay a wheelage tax on each of
Sure.
those. I'm
Trucking
not sure
companies?
cities do for each of their cars in a fleet.
I don't think
I don't
so.
know. Okay.
You'd be taxing the tax dollars again. I
Well,
don't think.
that doesn't matter.
That's true.
Look at
remember the sales tax
franchise
exemption?
fees.
Yeah, but remember the sales tax exemptions that weren't on local governments for a while, that they
Right.
had to pay a sales tax, so they're
Yeah.
taking my dollars and paying the state with it.
Yeah.
And that just recently got changed. So, I mean, it has happened.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I doubt it, but remember, sometimes vehicles are not, they're not always bought brand new. I wonder, I wonder how that works at a local level, but possibly. I'm going to guess that they don't, but of course they get gasoline. I wonder if they pay a gas tax.
I'm sure. I mean, unless
There's some sort of.
they.
Well, I
break-
know,
yeah.
the Public Works building in Crystal has its own gas
Right.
thing, so I don't know if they do.
So
but
maybe not that way. I don't know. I
they're
don't know if
beating up
this-
the roads,
Oh,
so
yeah.
maybe they no. Take my tax dollars and pay the tax with them.
Yeah.
But the point being, let's say there are 1 million cars here. I mean, with a $2.4 billion budget, not to mention, I mean, you got county aid, you got everything under the face of the earth. How is it possible that Hennepin County that they need that $10 wheelage tax?
I don't think they do. I mean, except that, to the extent that they're trying to put in Southwest, they're trying to put in Botno line. They've got things like that they're trying to do. I know that county roads. They have a number of projects that are going on with various county roads, whether that's making them safe for bicycles, whether that's, and like County Road 81, you're not going to necessarily see a bicycle path put in, but part of it, I know,
It's a
Crystal,
regional trail right next to it.
yeah, Crystal has that regional trail running through there, and I'm sure that then will be carried up all the way through Brooklyn Park.
Who manages that? Is that the Park District? Who manages that?
Yeah, who's paying for it?
'Cause
Well,
remember,
we're paying for it.
Remember
but I mean,
Hennepin County?
yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just
through which pocket?
Yeah, I mean, but Hennepin County works with the Park District and appoints 2 of its members. They're in cohesion, kibitzing, whatever you want to call it. So one of the 2, or some be paying it out of one pocket.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's pretty bleak, but I think that and we can thank our friends in the legislature for letting them raise it up to 20 now, especially all the people who talked about how they didn't want to increase spending and didn't, all that stuff, but they were all just fine if you gave counties the chance to do it.
And they lost 11 seats in the election.
How did that happen? I don't understand that.
Man, wow.
How do people not want more of this?
Oh, please, tax me more. Please.
But you're right about a place like Carver County. I mean, it just kind of is mind-boggling. They got every tax known to man, yet they constantly try to make the case of how, they're making fun of Hennepin and Ramsey County, which is fine with me. But
because they're terrible.
But I mean, in many cases, they're no better. Huh? They've been supporting the light rail projects. They implement all the taxes they can. I mean, the county board in Carver is a joke.
Yeah.
Just be blunt about it. They're a joke. So take that, Carver County.
Yeah.
So, I mean, moral of the story, folks, is if you live in one of these counties that doesn't have this, or any of these, or maybe one of them and not the other, be on the lookout, because some staff member, somebody on that county board is eyeing the money that will come in and probably already has it spent, like, a kid's Halloween candy, probably already has it, where they want to put it. And if you have a wheelage tax and you're paying $10, get ready to pay 20. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's coming. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, that didn't make sense to me. Why are they paying up to $20 for motorcycles, motorized bicycles, and foot scooters, but they're not paying $20 for cars, which do substantially more damage, quote unquote, to the roads? So they're going to have to equal that out. I mean, they can't let that sit.
Oh, no way.
No. I would like to know all of these foot scooters that are laying around. I don't know if you've ever driven through St. Paul, like on the weekend, or
if I can avoid it,
I know
I wouldn't.
I know.
I think I went to St. Paul once, or I think I went 2 times.
Yeah.
They were both to Saints games, and they're down there.
Yeah.
What you're talking about, Lower Town?
Oh yeah,
that's where they are. That's one of the spots.
It's like the Lord came back and everybody got raptured and left all their bikes and scooters everywhere. It's terrible. It's like a scooter graveyard, a bicycle graveyard. They're everywhere. I mean,
I don't see them being used all that much.
There are, within a block, you'll see 7 scooters, 5 bicycles. It's ridiculous. And then are they charging the companies that bring those in to put this wheelage tax on them, or no?
Who's using those?
No, but kids. Anytime that I've
them?
seen them used, they've been like maybe at the oldest 20-something years old, and they're riding around in groups. And
what happened to a good old skateboard?
What happened to Nintendo? That's the wrong direction. Yeah. That's not what I should be telling the kids to do.
No, you shouldn't be telling them. There's enough kids to sit around and do that. But I mean, what happened to like
climbing a tree, or
I
don't know.
Why is it that we think we have to impose this stuff on kids? That's what I don't get. Why can't it be? I had a bike and a skateboard and rollerblades and all that. I wasn't real good at it,
right?
But I had all that when in the 80s and early 90s before I could drive. But I didn't have it because I went down to Minneapolis and borrowed one from the Minnesota Bike Association. I had it because, I wanted it. My parents provided it, I guess.
Yeah. And
I enjoyed it. And I was always outside getting, why is it that we think we have to alter people's behavior?
You know why? And I'm going to lay this out for you as clearly as I can.
Oh, so I won't. I won't not know the answer after this.
No, you will understand clearly. So, if you know what we did with the whole Reconstruction and leading into the civil rights bills, and eventually with that getting passed by Lyndon Johnson and all that stuff. And what a travesty that has been for our country, because it has made people of minority people feel like they need to rely on the government in order to be able to survive. We took, African Americans were predominantly Republican before that, and because of what the Democrat Party did to them, became dependent on the government and has not been able to crawl out from under that.
Great Society more than civil rights.
Right.
Yeah.
The Great Society was the outcome of that. Lyndon Johnson, that was his big plan after all.
Yeah, it would surprise people to know that FDR 4 times lost the black vote.
Yeah.
I think people would be stunned to know that today. But the Republicans got the black vote, wasn't even close.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. You want to get the young voters. You want to get them under your thumb. You want to get them to think that your party's the best. What do? You provide stuff. What do young people want? Things that are fun, amenities, and they don't want to have to pay for them. So you provide bikes, you provide scooters. I mean, they pay a little bit.
Apps on your phone.
They're not free, but they're pretty cheap. It's an app on your phone. You pay a little bit.
Yeah, millennials are used to paying nothing.
So
why? They're living on mom's couch with a spring sticking out of it on their parents' health insurance till they're 41. Why is it that?
Well, it's the same reason. You can stay on your parents' health insurance. Hey, look what we did for you. Hey, really cheap scooters and bikes so you can get around in downtown St. Paul, Minneapolis, and Golden Valley. Hey, have fun.
But do you think? I mean, I think young people have always tended to be left wing.
A little bit.
Why is it?
Winston Churchill said, that if I'm not liberal when I'm young, I'm heartless. If I'm not conservative when I'm older, I'm
brainless,
or something like that. It was something to that effect. Yeah.
We've seen people like Ronald Reagan go through that transformation,
but
too.
not all of them do. And if you can hook them at a young age, they're not going to grow into being conservative when they get older and start having to raise a family and pay their own taxes and all of that stuff.
Let me translate this.
It's all the fun stuff.
Let me translate that. If you condition somebody to be dependent, they're never going to be independent.
Yes.
That's really...
That is the one-sentence answer to everything I just told you.
And you see it, but you do see this everywhere. I mean, I see free college, free health care, free, everything's free. Well,
right.
The truth is, there's no such thing as anything for free in this world. All you're doing is giving somebody else the bill. It isn't free.
Yes. Right. And there's a small minority of Democratic socialists within the Democrat Party that seem to be running policy in that party. Nobody else, the Blue Dogs or whoever, won't stand up to them.
They're being held hostage.
But here's the bigger problem. A lot of them are coming out of the cities. So your city-level leaders, and I'm not talking so much about Embarrass, Minnesota, or Worthington, Minnesota. I'm talking about your bigger cities. Case in point is the mayor that just ran down in Florida, in Tallahassee, Democratic Socialist. They're coming out of the local level because they can hide there, and they can provide the free stuff. Everybody in the cities loves the amenities, whether it's pools, whether it's golf courses, whether it's, these scooters and bikes. And then they rise out of that, saying, hey, look at all the cool stuff I just got you. Now they go to the State House. Hey, look at all the cool stuff I'm going to get you now. We're going to get you health insurance. We're going to get you school. We're going to get it's that's the problem.
Hey, folks, case in point. You want to see how that fails? I give you California.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to say anything more. I just wish people from California who are moving to Colorado, Nevada, and Arizona would drop who they were voting for. Prior to that, it seems like they've taken a lot of that with them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad they're out of California. It's got to be nice. But California, like I said before, New York, they used to be the meccas of everybody wanted to get to New York or California.
That's it.
Now, and in fact, just a side note on this. Have you seen the latest predictions on the census
No.
for 2020?
I have not.
Okay, I'm gonna just quickly give you like a little synopsis of what I read.
Everybody left and went to Florida and Texas.
Kind of.
Yeah.
A couple other states.
Okay.
I divide them up into red states, blue states, and purple states.
Okay.
That's what they are in my mind. In my mind, there's 20-ish solid red states, 12 or 13 solid blue states, and 15 purple. Well, whatever adds up to 50, I don't remember, but there's something like that. There is one blue state that is projected to gain an electoral vote. That is the state of Oregon.
Ugh.
One. It's supposed to go from, I think they have 7 now, 7 to 8. If you look at the rest of them, they are either blue or purple. There's 1 or 2 red. I think West Virginia was the one red one that I think is in danger of losing. And if you look at the rest of them, they're all purple or blue. I'm sorry, purple or red. I forget the last election and go to your more normal election because Pennsylvania will lose 1. New York will probably lose 2. Wow. Illinois will lose at least 1. Wow. So will Michigan.
We'll lose 1.
We're going to lose 1 too. And there were a couple more. I think there was a couple of Arizona's projected to gain 1. I call that. I consider that a lean red state. Florida was projected to gain 2, Texas 3, and there was a couple others I can't think of off the top of my head, but they did something where they looked at the 2006, because remember that'll be for the 2024 election,
Right.
Not the 2020. That will be under what it's current. But President Trump would gain something like 5 electoral votes if we did it all again, and that is with Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan all losing 1.
Right.
So, which, typically those 3 states, well, Ohio is maybe an exception, but Pennsylvania and Michigan had not gone Republican since 1988. So you could see even a more of a tilt with what's projected to come.
Which is interesting because, really it takes effect in 2022 in the midterm election. And so that could change depending on the Congress layout, what someone like Donald Trump is able to do in the last 2 years of really his lame duck.
Right, and
session.
Typically presidents don't do much.
But
typically
he's Donald Trump, and he always does.
Trump's a winner. He's I don't know what you want. You can love him or hate him, but
he's not the kind of guy to sit back and take it easy.
He's not going to sit down and do nothing for 2. And he'll be 75 years old by then, and probably working 20-hour days then. So you're right. And keep in mind too, you take a state like Texas and add 3 representatives. How does that get redistricted?
Well, and then there's that. You got to make sure if those 3 are added around the Dallas metro and the Houston metro.
No, I don't think so. That's not the part. Houston and Austin are not the part that's growing in Texas. It's north and west that's growing.
West. Well, Dallas is still pretty north, and that has
could
trended
grow
more liberal.
The suburbs, I think, is where it's growing, though.
Okay.
Make an analogy.
Right.
Pretend Dallas is Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And how places like, Maple Grove have grown.
Right.
That's where it's growing around Dallas and Fort Worth. So I don't know that it would be inside. If anything, the suburbs might not be included in those congressional districts. and some parts of southern Texas are growing by the Mexican border, too.
Right.
It's a little inconsistent in the state. So, I don't know how that plays out. Who's the governor? Who's running the legislature?
Right.
That could be a big one thing that might surprise people. Back in the mid-2000s, Texas had more Democratic congressmen than Republican congressmen because of how the state was gerrymandered.
Right.
And the previous one, too, and Ann Richards was the governor, back before George W., they had done something similar to that. So how does that lay out? Who's the governor? Who runs the legislature? Florida would be another state where that would matter. Arizona would matter big time.
All right.
So that plays into it as well. So, and in Minnesota, who the hell knows? You look at something like the urban and suburban and rural couldn't be more different in Minnesota than they are right now.
Right.
I mean, you've got the purple suburbs, you've got the blue
urban centers,
and then the rest of the state is 90% red.
Yep.
So how would that get broken down with one less? You'd almost have to still have 3 in the outstate. Mm-hmm. The borders might be different, but I don't see how you could. Maybe you'd have to include. I mean, CD 8 can't go any further south without hitting Anoka. So, I mean, I think it starts in Kennebec County, Isanti County, Chisago County.
Yep.
So, I mean, how do you redistrict with one less one? The real option that you have is to combine 4 and 5 and then make 3 new districts out of the suburbs.
Yeah.
6 would have to extend south or west or east, and then you'd have to do the same with 2. It would have to go probably north, and then 3 would have to go from, say, Robbinsdale east or west. I'm sorry.
I think making Minneapolis and St. Paul 1 congressional district would be amazing.
I think it'd be terrific. Just terrific.
Yeah.
So you can always hope. There's one side who's not going to go for that.
Right.
But I think we're going to lose one. I don't think there's any doubt this time.
Yeah.
We cleared them very close last time.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a mystery, but that brings us back to where we were at the beginning of this podcast. Election season starts now because whoever wins the next election decides the districting going forward after the 2020 census. So it is important that we start today, that we get people onto advisory commissions, into city councils, into county commissions, that we're bringing people up into the legislature who are going to stand. Not people who are going to fold like a cheap suit when the new governor comes along and says that he's going to raise taxes again and again and again and again. Can we not raise them as much? No, we need people who are willing to stand on their principles. And that starts today. That starts with thinking it over today. And I know we made this call before, but if you can decide by the end of this year whether you want to make the next year about preparing to run in 2020, or maybe you have odd year elections next year and you need to make a decision for sure by the end of this year so that you can run a good race next year. Now is the time. We don't get to take days off because they're always working. They're always trying to pass new taxes. They're always bringing in these special interest groups that want to pass policy that you don't agree with. So what are you going to do? You can sit back and you can pretend that everything's as normal, or you can see it for what it is and that things are not normal. This is not – we don't live in normal times anymore where we can just feel free to, we might have lost this election and won that election, but hey, the Democrats, I don't agree with them, but they're not that bad. Or the Republicans, I don't agree with them, but they're not that bad. We can change things in a couple of years. No, things swing so violently back and forth now that it is important that you are involved. It's important that you vote in years that are not presidential elections. It's important that you vote in your city elections if it's an odd year. You can't afford to stay home and just vote for the president. That doesn't do anything for you. And if you think it does, why don't you write the president right now, or try and give him a call, or show up at the White House and set up an appointment, and then try to set up an appointment, write or call your city council person, your county commissioner, your school board member. See which one gets you further. We are in a place where we need to take stock of where we are at, and we need to stop. We need to stop glamorizing the federal and the state level races, and we need to take care of our house. So who's going to do it? You? You? That person that's staring at their phone? I'm telling you, Andrew.
We need a world with walls. Who's going to do it? You, Lieutenant Weinberg? Come on, you know where that's from. Few Good Men.
Yes.
Every time I hear who's going to do it, you, that's what I was thinking of.
I haven't seen that in ages.
One of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah.
It's up there.
It's up there.
With Jack Nicholson, the only actor better than me.
Oh, boy. Oh, on that note, Minnesota, share this stuff. Please rate it. Help us get the word out because we need to raise a 20-person army, not to fight with guns, but to fight with
20K, not 20 person.
20,000.
You said 20 person.
Did I say 20-person army? Yeah. We're done. She's all full. 20,000. Thank you. Yes. We need that team 20K to be filled up, and we can do it, but it's going to take you guys getting off of that sofa with a spring sticking out of it, putting your name on the dotted line and saying, I am willing to stand up for my city, my county, my school district, and make things right. So who's in? Who's going to do it? I'm looking at you guys because we're doing everything that we can do on this end to educate and alert and pull together and strategize. And we're willing to work with any of you that are willing to work with us. So get a hold of us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. And we're going to make Minnesota a heck of a lot different than it's looking to be today, I tell you. Well, Andrew, another fine podcast.
Closing in on number 100 again.
We're getting there. This will probably be episode 90.
Really?
So, yeah, we may have to put some plans together. We got 10 weeks to figure it out.
Figure a great best celebration.
A best of.
No,
episode 100. We're not doing it. Best
no, not best of. I mean, we got to make it the best. We got to make it the ultimate.
Every podcast is, so it should just naturally happen.
It's got to be even gooder than normal.
Yes, this is true.
We are crescendoing. We keep crescendoing. You know, Nothing can just go up and up and up except us. We can keep rising. But most things just don't. Most things flat.
Once the sheen comes off and the tarnish starts to appear, that hasn't happened. We're a well-oiled machine.
It ain't gonna.
We are a well-oiled machine.
How do you like that? How do you like that grammar?
I like it. Ain't a word?
I know it ain't.
Yeah, whatever.
How about if ain't a word? Why when I put ain't in Microsoft Word, it does not underline it if ain't a word?
I think they fixed that. I think that it's in the dictionary and all that now.
Right. Okay. So a little like
so now that it's a word, nobody uses it anymore. It's like man, that I don't feel like such a rebel.
That's something that already crescendoed, and it's
yeah, exactly. Oh goodness.
All right, Jay, sign us out.
All right. Y'all need to get a hold of us because we need to help you turn your cities, your counties, your school districts inside out. You know how to do it. I already told you 2 minutes ago. So spread the word because I tell you, we've done our part, Minnesota. We love you. Now it's your turn to give.